All right, so we're going to get started. Welcome to our quick little presentation. We're taking advantage of the spooky Halloween season and giving you some scary tips and tricks from the cyber insurance Crypt. I'm labeling this as part one because we do have somewhat of a part two coming up next month in a webinar that we'll be presenting, and I'll have more information about that later in the presentation. My name is Steve Pressman. I'm the president and CTO of Alpine Cyber Solutions. I have with me Jeremy Wheeler, who is my vice president of cloud and IT services. And he's going to be chiming in with some helpful tips, tricks, and flavor text as we go. So without further ado, let's get started. So what we're going to try to cover here is just a little bit of a cautionary tale and a little bit of the real world of cyber today, where cyber insurance is not just a thing that you go and you buy and you just have it in case you need it. The requirements are bigger than they used to be, and it's more expensive than it used to be, and it's more required than it used to be. So what I would like for everybody to take away from this is sort of an understanding of why we are here, why we being the customers of cyber insurance, and what you can do to make it so that you have the protection of cyber insurance, but that you drive down your premiums and as a result, drive down your risk. It's hard to say which one's first there. So as I said, welcome to spooky season. It is the season of cyber insurance renewals. And I will not do the blood-curdling scream, but I'm sure you can picture it in your mind. It is a scary time for companies that need to have an exposure that they need to cover with cybersecurity, cyber liability insurance. And as this group is largely responsible for the personal information of your residents and your employees, you are one of those organizations that needs to be ready with some coverage of residual risk, which is what cyber insurance does. So here's the no duh of the moment. Cyber insurance is expensive, and it continues to grow. This slide only covers through 2020, and as I'm sure you can imagine, with the explosion of remote work and companies who didn't have the concept of remote work in the past suddenly having to enable remote access. There were a lot of new expenses and new hits in the cyber insurance and cybersecurity world because unfortunately not everybody was as thoughtful as they could have or should have been in how they enabled those remote accesses. Without getting too deep into it, if you just opened your front door and let people log into your systems, you really opened up a lot of problems and risk and concerns that cyber insurance companies needed to deal with and pay out for. Because they were compromised. And that's really what it comes down to. It didn't used to be this way, but because the number of claims has gone up, here's the cyber claims again. This is only up through 2019 information, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get new information in time for this presentation, but the slope increased, and that because of that, there have been more payouts. And when there's more payouts, then the rates have to go up. Otherwise, the insurance companies lose money. That's just how it goes. Data breaches. So the loss of employee, of customer, in your case, resident data is really what drives this. The biggest. When there's a need to compensate people for the fact that you lost their information, that gets very expensive from a cyber insurance standpoint and from just a reality standpoint. And kind of rightfully so. It's expensive. Now, in the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of real world. So we are not insurance people. Alpine Cyber Solutions is not an insurance company. We are a cybersecurity company. We understand how to protect people. We understand how to put protections in place. We understand how to put policies and procedures, how to test environments. And what we started to see in 2020, 2021 was an increase in questions from cyber insurance companies saying, okay, do you have multi-factor authentication? No? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to cover you now. like exclusionary questions where people can't get it. And even if you found a company that would allow you to get a cyber insurance policy, without multi-factor authentication, your rates were double or triple what they would be for a company that had it in place. So multi-factor authentication for your remote accesses, people logging in via VPN, people logging into Office 365, people logging into their EMR perhaps that might be cloud hosted, needing to be multi-factor. Administrators of the environment needing multi-factor authentication. And without going too deeply into it in this conversation, the concept here of multi-factor authentication for those who might not be as in the know is that you can't just steal someone's password and log into the environment as them. You need their phone, or you need their a token that they have on a little special device, or a much less good a text message that goes to their phone, or an app that proves that that person is who they say they are. A second factor. It's not the most difficult thing to do, but it's something that wasn't on a lot of companies' radars before cyber insurance said, oh, okay, you need it now. The fact of the matter is you did. You always needed it. And now it's just getting done because it has a financial impact. Another thing that we are seeing is insurance companies are starting to get into the proof game. Yes, I have a secure website or a secure VPN connection is no longer enough. They're starting to scan you. They're starting to hit your websites and say, hey, no, this website has vulnerabilities, or this website has a bad certificate. This VPN is not secure. I'm moving on to the next one. We have a company, a customer, where their insurer said, I see that you're using a SonicWall VPN. They hit their VPN site and it came up as a SonicWall, which is a brand of firewall. I'm sorry, SonicWall has too many vulnerabilities. We're not going to cover you unless you replace that. That's huge. It's a specific vendor with real world issues is having an impact on the bottom line because now you can't get your insurance. Thankfully, that customer was in the process of replacing their Sonic walls with another capability, but boy, did they roll it out faster than they expected to when they found out that this was what was going to happen. Backups needing to be encrypted and needing to have a copy of the backups offsite. That was something that it's, again, something you should have always had. You need good backups in this world of ransomware that we live in right now. And we're not going to go deep into ransomware here, but you can come back next month. We'll talk about it a lot. If you don't have backups that are offsite, or you don't have backups that are happening regularly enough, or you don't have backups that are encrypted, you're not protected, because if your backups are compromised, then your data is compromised. It's just backups are your data from a couple of days ago, or from a couple of hours, or a couple of minutes ago. And we've seen insurance companies ask that question. Vendor audit policies. This is kind of the next big wave in my mind. This is third-party risk management. If your company depends upon another company for even things like janitorial, HVAC, staffing, any third party that is in some way connecting to your network or connecting to your environment or dealing with your people or dealing with your systems, there is becoming a requirement that you understand their risk, that you understand what they're bringing to the table and how they're protecting your data. And there are solutions to do that, but boy, it's not quick and easy. Disaster recovery and incident response plans. We saw that this year for the first time. Again, if you didn't have a disaster recovery plan or an incident response plan, and that both of those are tested, either with a tabletop drill or with some sort of regular verification, then your rate was higher. We didn't see that one as exclusionary, but just as an increase in rate. And then finally, this one I just saw yesterday, and I had to make a quick last minute edit to this slide. We're starting to see a lot more email requirements. SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are sort of the holy trinity of email security. And I am definitely not going to go into the details of them here because I want you to stay awake. This is coffee time. But it is very important that you protect your email and protect the fact that the emails that you send, when they're received, are verified that they are from you. And similarly, when you receive an email from somebody, that you verified that it really came from them and from their email system. That goes a long way to preventing spoofing emails from compromising.
Hey,
So a
Steve,
lot of stuff.
Before you step off the slide, I want to mention two things. One, when you mentioned vendor audit, one of the very important pieces of support, third-party support that a lot of communities and a lot of aging services communities have is their security. So camera as well as physical security monitoring, and they are most of the time very, very deeply embedded into your network. So that is a particular area of interest that you should be paying attention to. And also the one thing that this slide definitely covers, but is sort of an overarching thing, is that the cyber insurance companies are the haste with which they expect you to implement these is not, they give you a 6-month grace period. Most of the time it's like within 60 days, they're expecting these things to be done. And a lot of these implementations, especially multi-factor authentication or a new firewall, is not a 60-day project. You need several months of lead time to design and implement a good solution. So I wanted to make sure I called that out.
That's a great point. Yeah. I mean, it's if you don't think about your insurance until the month before it's due because you have a new application to fill out, boy, you could be behind the 8 ball for sure. All right. The Department of Unpopular Opinions here, they're really not wrong. And it's almost as painful as it is to say because of the realities of the situation, it's refreshing to hear that they're finally addressing real risk. It's not just, do you have a firewall? Yes. Okay, you get insurance. It's bitten them too much. How do you drive down your premiums? Well, in reality, you drive down your premiums by driving down your risk. You have to stop treating cybersecurity as optional. And I'm hoping that in this day and age that we're no longer doing that. But to be honest, your primary goal as an organization is to deal with your residents, deal with your customers. It is not a money maker to be cyber secure. It's a cost center, not a profit center, as they always say. So it can't be optional. It can't be an afterthought. It needs a line item in your budget. And the best way to do it is to have a security program. You can't boil the ocean. You can't. There are a lot of facets to a security program that need to be implemented. And I will say these are this brain dump of bullets here. I'm not going to go deeply into all of them. It's sort of these are the things that we've seen people not have and things that are big winners from a communication with cyber insurance. Again, MFA, it's the rallying cry. If you don't have MFA already, especially for your cloud-based resources, VPNs, and I should have said for your admin accounts as well, it needs to be implemented sooner rather than later. Stop putting it off. Vulnerability scanning. You should be scanning your own network inside and outside every month. You really should, especially inside, because when a bad guy gets in through whatever the methods that they get in from, once they're in, if you have vulnerabilities, they're going to find them. You need to find them first. It's not good enough to expect your border to protect it. To that end, patch everything every month. High and critical vulnerabilities must be patched monthly. And then everything else that's lower than that should be done at least quarterly. I'm going to move a little bit quickly now because we're hitting our time, but you should have an EDR tool, endpoint detection and response. This is the greatest protection against malware. It looks for, essentially, in the old parlance, viruses. In the new fear-mongering, it's ransomware. It protects you from, it gives you visibility to understand when you're being compromised. You should implement a password vault for your users so that they're not reusing their password or writing them on a piece of paper under their keyboard. Everyone should have a password vault that they access through their browser, and that stores their passwords so that they're good passwords and different for every site. You need to phish your users, attack them, test them, make sure that they're constantly aware that every email they open could be the one that brings ransomware into the environment. You need to have an active email security filter. This is vital. Look for spam, look for messages that don't have the proper SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, and flag them so that people can see, I've got a problem. It should also check all of the links in every email to make sure that they're not vulnerable or malicious. Have a vulnerability assessment done of your environment, okay? And not just a scan, an assessment. Look at your Active Directory, look at your storage, look at your processes, assess your vulnerabilities. Get all of your external IP addresses and websites penetration tested annually. Remove administrative rights. You should have no users with administrative rights on the account that they log in with every day. Your administrators should have a separate account that they only use when they need to do administrative things. Because if your administrative rights user receives ransomware, it has administrative rights. If it receives any malware, it has administrative rights. Nobody should have administrative rights on their laptops. And then finally, don't have service accounts sitting in your domain admins. You shouldn't have over-permissioned service accounts because they are just as vulnerable, if not more so. And if you give them too much power, bad things can happen. Get a knowledgeable partner, obligatory sales pitch. People like us do this stuff. Get a good partner that you trust, build a good relationship, and it will save you in the long run. That's our time. I appreciate you coming out and seeing us. Please come back on November 16th, 2 p.m. We're doing a webinar on what to do in the next year to fight specifically phishing, ransomware, and other things that go bump in the night. We'll go a little bit deeper onto some of the things that I had to blow through because of time today. And I really hope that this was useful for everybody. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.